for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's a private lender and investors who's deployed millions in capital to small businesses and entrepreneurs in high risk niche markets where traditional banks won't go. So, no other than Mr. Louis Bachour.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Daniel. Thank you for having me. So you're correct. I'm a private lender and investor. I lend primarily in small businesses, and I deal mostly with small businesses because I think that's where you get a bigger upside on everything. And I feel like it's the perfect win-win relationship. Um, by having an active private lender dealing with small companies.
Indeed, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Louis. And today, let's talk about how to spot $1 million opportunities and overlook small businesses. You began a business at the age of 14, working restaurant and nightclubs. You've said you started from the bottom and now I'm here. What did those early years in service and business teach you about the value that you could not have learned in the boardroom or business school?
I think that description matches probably another one of your guests, but how I started was actually through very, very small loans in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of what ignited the private lending movement. Of course, back then, super small amounts of money and no contracts, not much of a sophisticated structure, no collateral, none of that. Um, and then it grew over time. I've also been invested in the markets for a long time, stock markets primarily. Um, and so this basically snowballed into much bigger operations. Basically, only the money grew, not the headcount, because it's only me basically running that. Um, so it snowballed into that, and at the end, over the years, I'm a capital allocator, so I'll just pick and choose if I think investing in the market is the right thing at a specific time, or should I instead use that money for a loan, for example. Um, so that's kind of what led to all of this. And I eventually narrowed down to dealing almost exclusively with small companies by choice, because I think that's where you actually get $1 million opportunities. Smaller companies, not many parts of the economy are actually helping small businesses. Um, it's when you're a bigger company that it's much easier. Everybody wants to help you. The bank reaches out to you. People reach out to you. It's a lot different when you're a small business. Um, so, small businesses often have a lot of trouble getting financing from a bank, or it takes just way too long. They're not sure how to even present that in a proper structured way. Um, and they will have all sorts of issues, but that are also opportunities for collaboration. For example, they won't have any sort of like bookkeeping or accounting. So when I'm acting as a private lender, I have to kind of piece things together. It's very easy if it's a public company and then they have a 10Q every quarter, and then you just go and there's a beautiful um, income statement, balance sheet, all of that. It's very easy. But when you deal with small companies, often even the actual exact number of their gross sales they don't fully know it. Um, and So you can imagine how little they know sometimes about everything between the top line revenue and the bottom line net income. There's a lot of stuff that goes through there. So as a private lender for small businesses, you need to kind of piece things together and kind of build your own income statement and balance sheet and ask the right questions to these small businesses. Um, and you even, I collaborate with multiple small businesses where I will take certain responsibilities to restructure them or help them present certain things. And that's where you get an immense amount of opportunity because you get to sometimes share the upside through equity deals. So if you're confident enough to lend $500,000 to a small business, you may be confident enough to participate in an equity deal or even just receive equity as part of the lending activities. So certain deals resemble that. And that's how you get to share the upside. And sometimes companies that have 6 months of operations, um, but they already profitable or almost profitable. We're talking mainly about e-commerce businesses. That's the bulk of what I do, e-commerce businesses. So it's not the typical, real estate lending. So that's kind of the big picture of how you position yourself as a private lender.
So, Mr. Luis, when you were evaluating small business, what are the very first metric you look at? Not the fancy KPIs, the raw number that tells you whether to keep looking or walk away.
I will ask for basically top line, bottom line, and if they have any other debt, which means I will ask for what's the sales, the number of sales. So let's say it's $1 million. Um, and I'll ask for the bottom line, so the net income. And then let's say it's 100K. Um, and let's say they don't even know what the net income is, which is pretty often for small businesses. They don't actually really know. They will know the gross income, um, the gross margins, sorry. But then between a gross margin that is maybe 200K, often small businesses will stop there and they'll kind of like pretend they're profitable or hope they're profitable. Um, so if they know the net income, that's even better. If they don't know, then that's work to do, more questions to ask, and then asking if they have any other debt. That's a big issue for a private lender like myself if the company has a lot of debt with banks, because banks will have the first lien basically. Um, and if the company defaults, they have first access to assets, or to whatever collateral or personal guarantees they have. So I ask for top line, bottom line, and any other debt. And obviously, a smart description about what the company does. You're muted, Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Luis. Often the value is an overlooked business. It's not on the balance sheet. Is it customer list, the location, the reputation, or the untapped online potential?
Often the overlooked value can be at many places. For sure, if the company doesn't really have an income statement, doesn't really have a balance sheet, They try to stitch something together to go to a bank. Um, the bank, the humans dealing at the bank, they might have like other stuff to do than trying to deal with a totally messy deal, basically. And often it gets pushed. um, and then a small company may have to wait 6 weeks for a real follow back. And for a small company, it's disastrous. um, so if I can stitch together a proper income statement, ask the right questions, do the right research, same thing for the balance sheet, um, I can already unlock value there. That may take just more time for the bank because they have like other priorities. Um, and I can execute much faster that way. And a small company who needs money in 2 business days cannot wait for the back and forth with the bank, especially that it's 5 business days per week. And private lenders like myself can, if they want, answer you whenever and do work or whenever. So that's one place where you can unlock value that is not necessarily easy or fast to reach for a bank. The other good place to unlock value is simply knowing the people involved. Sometimes you know the people from 10 years ago and you've seen them execute other stuff. You've seen them do well in other activities. Um, and you have sort of a mental track record of these people. So it's fairly easy to see, who will make it happen and who will find a way to sort of fail. The example I often give is, for example, in high school, when the teacher would ask people to get into groups for group projects, if you know the people in the class, just with a glimpse, you can know which teams will make it happen no matter what, and which teams will fail no matter what. So that's another way to unlock value is the networking aspect, the knowing the people aspect. Um, and that's something that's difficult to replicate for the bank. The bank will establish a relationship, but it's a short term relationship. It starts there, basically. It may last many, many years, decades even, but it starts at the moment where you ask for a loan. However, if you have an extensive network, the relationship starts maybe 10 years before an actual loan. So that's another value, another point where it's difficult to replicate for the bank.
Mr. Luis, when you acquire or invest in small business, you're not just buying the cash flow, you're buying the platform for multiplication or multiplication. What are the specific characteristics that tell you a business can be at 2 times and 5 times or 10 times in the current size?
So there would be, I think that the most central thing is the team and how well the team can execute, um, and what they have done so far. Um, so the team is probably the most important aspect, and the second aspect will be what have they done so far. For example, sometimes people message me literally through my Instagram, and to request for loans or to describe their business or their plans. And once a month at least, I will get someone who will say that they have the best idea ever, that it's the best thing ever, that they had some sort of like cosmic revelation and that it's going to work. But then they have done nothing yet. So there's nothing to show. So if you are so sure about your idea and you don't have even a small website, a small social media page, the beginnings of something, depending on what the business is. Are you talking to suppliers? Are you talking to prospective clients? What are you doing? And often you'll get people who will have a crazy confidence, and which is fine, but it needs to be backed with something. So if the team is really good, and I know the team, and they're moving fast even without my help, um, that's a very good indication. But nothing's going to really tell you for sure if a company will be 5 times the size in, let's say, 5 years. You need to kind of constantly check the company. You need to stay up to date with it. And then every quarter, maybe, you get a better idea of, is this still going in the right direction? Should I renew my commitments? Should I renew the loans, for example? Um, and then you see, for example, some loans I'll make a first deal for a 6 month duration, and then it will be my decision if I renew the loan or not. So if during those 6 months the company didn't really progress the right way, I can simply not renew the loan. So that's how I would answer this question.
Mr. Louise, as a private lender and investor, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Short-term and long-term goals. It's basically to continue what I do. It started at such a small scale that I never imagined, even reaching the scale that I have now. Um, when I first started, when I was in high school, I quickly realized, the potential of consistently lending and investing. And I just want to continue and grow and scale. And that's what's going to happen. And often a question I get is people sort of underestimating or questioning that such deals are possible at very large scale. For example, certain deals that I'll do is I will buy, for example, the inventory of a bankrupt or nearly bankrupt company at a very cheap price. And then I will resell it myself or through connections. And those deals are lucrative, and they just inject cash really rapidly for a company that maybe needs that money to finish paying off creditors or banks. Um, and those types of deals, I include them in lending, or it could be the category of deal making. And people tend to kind of think that these deals are not possible at very large scale, but it is possible. And we've had examples recently, or fairly recently, with the war in Ukraine, how you got $400 million yachts seized by multiple governments and sold for 50 cents on the dollar, or even lower. So you would have mega yachts worth $500 million being auctioned off for 150 million, for example, or slightly higher. But I think the example is pretty clear. So if I was a billionaire, for example, and I had money to get on that deal really quickly, refit the yacht, maybe change the name of the yacht, I may profit $100 million off of that, off of such deal. So my long-term goals are to continue growing in scale. And I would not be surprised if I did relatively the same thing 20 years from now, but with just different aspects and with just um, more capital.
Mm, more capital. Indeed. So good luck to your goals, Mr. Luis, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
A piece of advice is to never stop learning, and that also refers to the the books that I told you about from Ray Dalio, where he covers debt crises and currency crises and the economic health of countries. And literally, when education or learning peaks, it's the beginning of the end of all the other indicators. So, if it's true for countries, it is true for the humans that make up those countries. So to never stop learning, never stop consuming information, um, and hopefully it will be good information.
A good information for sure. So, Mr. Luis, thank you for that empowering advice. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
I will recommend the Principles for Navigating Big Debt Crises by Ray Dalio. Then, if somebody reads that book and wants to continue, there's a Changing World Order from Ray Dalio as well, and then How Countries Go Broke from Ray Dalio as well. So it's not a series of they don't exactly follow each other, these books, but it is logical to read them in that order.
Mm, in that order. Yes, definitely. Thank you for the recommended books, Mr. Luis. And tell us, you work in digital marketing as well? Are you?
Not really, no.
Not really. So tell us, mm, you've seen thousands of business, isn't it? What's one the red
Mhm.
flag that makes you walk away immediately, no matter what the good numbers look on the surface?
Probably an incoherent story by the founder. Um, if or the founders, if there's multiple people, I think that's the single biggest red flag, because someone who really, really, really wants to fabricate stuff um, and lie will succeed pretty often. So I need to be very careful if I spot any discrepancies in um, the answers that I receive or the behavior of the founders. So I think that's probably the single biggest red flag that if there's no trust, I mean, how could I possibly lend money? How could I possibly go to the bank and ask them to wire out $200,000 from my account and send it to someone's account that I don't trust? It's not possible. I will not do it. So yeah, that's what it is.
Very well said, Mr. Luis. So, to wrap up our discussion for today, if someone listening right now wants to start looking for $1 million opportunities in overlooked businesses, what is one question they should ask themselves every time they walk into a business, drive through a commercial district, or meet a small business owner? Or what is the question that opens the door to seeing what everyone else misses?
Well, what opens the door to seeing what a lot of people miss um, is going to come through experience. So people have to reach out and hear out many small businesses. You could go to business fairs. You can identify small businesses online and see how they present their business, how they explain their business. You could start also by looking at public companies that disclose everything basically. So you get a chance to see what an entire full disclosure looks like from a public company that is forced to do it. Um, and then you realize how little sometimes information you get from small private companies. So you get a chance to then try to get a balance between an entire 10Q, like we call it, um, and a small disclosure from a small company. And then you ask your questions based on that. And then you realize quickly that there's a lot of information that even the company doesn't know, um, or ways to do that the company doesn't know. You should get also familiar with how the banks work, um, and with experience. It's it's I've been doing it for many years. Like I said, since high school, um, and of course it was super small scale, but gonna start with something. Um, and today that experience that I have is really from like a more than 10 years of investing in the public markets, private markets, and lending to private companies. So it'll come. Um, that's what I can say.
Very well said, Mr. Louis. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you want to promote on Book One Wonder View?
Well, actually, it's more that I wouldn't ask for their support. I would ask them to let me support them, through my lending activities. So small businesses that hear, this message and that are struggling with the banks or struggling with structure, struggling with just operations overall. Um, on my bio, now you're seeing just the web version, but in my bio, there's a link where you can apply for a loan between $10,000 and $1 million. And there's a series of questions that you can fill up. It's totally free, and that will land in my email inbox, and I will look at it. It's totally free. Um, and if you have additional questions, or if I have additional questions, then I'll reach out. But everything is done through basically my Instagram page, and through the link on my Instagram page. So that's what I would say. So it's the best win-win scenario possible.
Mm. Yes, people, let's support Mr. Louis Bachour, because if you support him, man, for sure, more and more empowering business will rise. So, Mr. Louis, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
What can people see you soon?